syntax, this right here. So what we want to do eventually is not add NSDates, but add dogs instead. Most of this stuff you shouldn't have to worry about. Not yet, but this returns the number of sections that are available in the table. Notice that we're extending, by the way, UI table view controller. So what we're doing is overriding the methods that have default values in that original class definition. This returns the number of rows in a given section. We only have one section, so we're just going to return the count of objects in the given array. You'll notice some really funky syntax here with the arguments in these methods. For example, there's a really descriptive item here, but there's a space and then the colon delimited parameter. Don't worry about this too much yet. This is because this original class is written in Objective-C instead of Swift. And so there's a bunch more stuff that goes into writing a method, or what is really a message in Objective-C than there is in Swift. So you can use this as your reference for what this method does, but don't worry about having to author this yet. Just look for the part that's most descriptive when you're reading through the method parameters. We're going to be manipulating these two lines, 65 and 66. So you might want to bookmark those. The way that you can bookmark stuff in Xcode is to say to do :dash, and then say customize this cell to display the name of a dog with a capital D. This method is responsible for taking an index path object and returning an instance of a UI table view cell. So it's like, give me an index, and I'll give you the cell that's supposed to go there. And so as you're scrolling, it's actually saying, like, you're looking at cells 7 through 17, calling this method and grabbing those 11 cells and handing them back to the table view so that it can display those cells in place. Does that make sense, that process? So the reason why this syntax here in the comment is because if you go up here and click on this breadcrumb, you can see the to-do right there in the list, which is kind of convenient. Okay. So those are really the places that you should be aware of now. We're going to ignore the detail view controller entirely for the moment, because it'll crash. But in main.storyboard, we should go through the same process of first disabling auto layout, so that you get a much more familiar view. So one of the first tasks that you should do is to create that additional view controller with a text field that takes the name of a dog, and then a corollary class that's going to be the modal view controller, which then can reference that text field, just like we did at the beginning of class. So you should have that project example if you synced your repository, or I can post it as a zip onto Slack. Before you start to tackle that, though, we need to do one thing. We need to import the dog class into the project. So I highly recommend that in most circumstances, whenever you create a new class for yourself, create a file that contains just that one class. Okay? It's this everything does one thing principle. Every file contains one class. Every class represents one idea. Every function does one thing. Every line does one thing. So in this case, what we're going to do is say file, new, file, file, new file. And then we're going to want a generic Swift file. Say next. And call it dog.swift. And then, if you have your playground open and you copied the dog class, I would just copy it over met app code. The great thing about Swift apps is that now this class dog is available in all the other files. In Objective-C, you have to actually worry about bringing them in explicitly. Okay.
Did you change the auto layout or?
I turned it off. We've always been turning auto layout off. And we'll get to it probably after the midterm. Yeah. So use auto layout should be turned off. It's the first, if you load the storyboard, it's the first inspector. And you just can click into empty space, deselect everything, and say use auto layout. Okay. So I recommend that you create the view controller. Get that modal working, add a dismiss button and have it dismiss. And then add the text field. And then once you're at that point, you're in a good place to start hacking away at the master view controller where it says var objects. First thing you should do is probably change that to dog instead, and then work your way from there.
Can you post that?
Yeah. So on Slack, I just posted my dismiss mobile project. So you can use that as an example for how to create that mobile dialog. And here's a description of the whole challenge right here.
Do that. That's going to be
table view controller. That's what I did. And then we're supposed to put in.
So we just add one here. Table view control.
It's not working outside. We're trying to get the add the text fields. Added the table view controller.
No, you just need to add a generic view controller. Yeah, because all that we're trying to do is mimic what we did before, which is just have a modal view controller display with a text field.
You still have to add the table view within that.
No, you already have one. There it is. See, what we're trying to do is, like, there's a detail view here, but we're also trying to create a new dog form. That's what's going to go in the other view controller in there.
So that you have to have that over there then too.
Well, the positions don't really matter, but it does make it convenient. Like, you could pull this one up, pull this one down over here.
So in here we're gonna put the dogs, I mean the rows.
No, that's going to end up over here. You already have a table view.
Right. So in here will be the dogs, right?
That's right.
Okay. All right. So then, why we even have to create this new one?
You don't. You need a generic view controller that's just empty, so you can put a text field in it.
Okay.
Because you have to have a place for the user to enter,
Input.
to input the name of his or her dog.
Oh, okay.
So we're creating a new dog field.
So you input from the key. Yeah.
That's right. So that's going to contain a text field. Don't mess with that at all. Don't mess with that. Just create a modal text, a modal view controller that has a single text field and a dismiss button. That's the first challenge. So you've added the button over here. So why don't you show Sean how to add the button? And then Sean has the correct view controller and you have the correct button. So you all should communicate.
The button is, that should be easy. You click on that. Nice. So now you can add the button up. That's easy. But then you, that's okay, it just doesn't display.
I just added we don't want it.
I just added the view controller.
Right.
Because
Okay.
when we start, we don't have anything.
I added a,
So we don't have a detailed so we can't overload this. What we want is a button over here that says add new dog. Yes. After this. So the interest view of that is
this.
Here's
Yeah, text there.
drag it down.
Yeah, because here you're gonna import whatever
So the
text.
segue came here, so I think you're good. So I think if you just run that, you'd be halfway there.
Just start to run this?
Just run it and see if you've gotten, see if you've made progress.
So you guys go to your
So that's,
Don't be afraid to run in the middle of your work. You don't have to go from A to Z all in one.
So put the add button there.
yeah, I'm adding a few.
Is it actually app?
Usually not.
There's like nothing in here. It's so slow.
It comes up with dismiss. And the dismiss doesn't do anything, which is what we expect. So it's great. So then all you can do is mimic what we did before. And there's a zip file of the project that I did on Slack.
Yeah. Yeah.
This, so it's just that code, it's just that code snippet. Producing a new class. Splitting that list into dismiss.
So when I
Cool. That's the
How you doing?
so how many dogs? 4?
Just one.
Okay.
So hard. Start simple.
Ah,
Just say name. It should just say name. Or like you can create a label that says add a new dog, and then a label of the text field that says name.
So now if you would,
So if I go here,
So that should have.
you can see it is model and model view.
then I would just want
The
them
difference is that you're not going to be called, you're not going to be setting a label. You're going to be doing is you're going to create a dog. You're going to call this method insert new object. It's in the other controller. So if you go to main view controller in your project,
And I can fix this.
master view controller.
so
See this
what
mess
is
in this here?
what you're taking out of it?
Insert new object. You're going to want to alter this.
I think
So
it's,
instead of
this
sender in the
project.
object, it'll be new dog, colon, dog.
Model view control.
Because then that method will accept the new dog object, which is the one that you want to add to your base dogs. Makes sense? The modal will create it, instantiate it, and it will call this method.
Well,
Insert it in one table.
Does it matter which one I do first?
yeah, so you want to, yeah, so we'll think about what button. Oh, it's the happy add button.
Yeah.
And the segue set up.
Yeah.
For this. Can't tell what's too long. Trying to go add, but,
Exactly. So that's
click on the segue, that's what that will circle set for that.
it should have some properties.
Yeah, yeah, okay. Yeah, so I'm
From here we should get that code so we can use this.
It's connected to this.
yeah, and if you go here,
Anybody else having that where the click action doesn't quite work?
Alright, you guys,
I don't know.
I don't
Sorry, I don't know.
Huh? I just put that word on.
I guess, yeah.
Okay. Which one is this app? That one.
Okay.
The self.
Yeah, so if you make that change already, true, you made this one already.
Okay, so you totally,
This,
so you did it as any object that
here,
you
that builds or
That makes sense.
So it was telling you that the type of this data is not matching the type of the
But I will.
radio
Sure,
provider.
once the dog's.
So
yeah.
just kind of make a note that you should change this to dog. So that actually changing it. I tricked you.
What's this from?
So it's probably just taking a long time to run.
Oh, okay.
Stop it.
Dog.
So it's just taking a while.
Remember what
Yeah,
I
that's
did
what
here.
Well, are we doing this or are we replacing the dogs? Are we replacing this?
Okay, with, you're always in that one.
Any of that?
Except we just change it.
Okay, so the add button
I'm
should
just
be
probably
here.
just basically trying to
Should be
take
here.
the,
Because if you don't have anything in the list yet, you don't have a detailed view to go
what's
to.
going on here.
This is.
Right? So you can't just attempt to drag that in. Just drag that back.
So you go,
Okay.
so you get out of the file. So you're not on the right file,
Yeah. So this one's going to be for adding a new dog. This one is going to be for looking at an existing dog. We're not going to do anything like that. Just focus on the next task, which is to get the modal dialogue.
What's
So
the
it's
max
like
that
the
is
visual
installed?
stuff. So just hit play and see if it runs.
So we're line 35.
Yeah, so you gotta shut
And
this.
the date is there.
To dismiss it, yes. Well, we're just testing to see if this works first. We're going to do one step at a time.
Work on that label first.
It's hard to before that you've done with what's wrong. So that's wrong. Great.
Because I'm getting
Success. Hallelujah.
Yeah, don't change
So
any of
dismissal
this.
works.
That's-
So the code for
That's still
dismissing
cool. So do the list now. On the label. So I think
So,
on the label, saying.
So what generally you have to do is create a new UI view controller for this,
so I,
which I would call mobile view controller. So you go to
Yeah.
there, you file,
Add,
file new.
go to that. Now,
So you did that one already?
so now I'm driving.
now you're on the
Okay, it's not it. No. That's the dog. We're going to create a view controller that controls this.
Now hit the button.
So iOS source.
So you're gonna see when to the one above this. So remove that one.
In there, under the drop down, pick UI view controller. So it's like
Yeah.
itself. And then call it
No, it's not adding anything.
name of the class.
No, it's
No,
not
no, no,
adding
the name of your class. Now this is going to be
technical issues? What the heck?
Click on the view controller itself. And then drop down. Mobile view controller.
So are you able
So
to?
now you can create an action that references this button, which then calls it dismiss. Dismiss word.
Working on only text.
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure if it'll work.
You remember how to do this, right? Or go to the assistant inspector and right click, drag over.
Why do you need to run that?
Drag. Okay.
Maybe you
So go into the assistant editor.
I quit it. I'm
So
starting.
double check to say mobile view control. So you're gonna right
Where
click
was this thing?
It says touch inside. Drag. Here.
Where did you start this? Where did
The
you?
name.
I think we just created
Oh,
a new
just
one.
create a new
Yes.
one? Yeah, okay. Right.
Lowercase o. Uppercase in the beginning only for classes, if and only if it's a class. You don't want to count. Yes, that's fine.
So now you just need that single line of code.
Okay. So when you tap on that button, this code is going to get called. So you're going to want to call the method that dismisses this
That's not the action.
So luckily, Xcode will tell us what that is. So put your cursor in between the braces. New line. Self dot. Just start typing dismiss, D-I-S-M-S. D-I-S. There we go. D-I-S. Dismiss view controller and. So, it's a bit better. So, we want to give it true here because that's the flag for. We want to type the word true. You just type it highlighted, so where it says, yeah, right there. So start typing true. T-R. There you go. So that's going to tell it to animate the dismissal of and then this argument accepts a function or nil that tells it what to do after the dismissal is finished. So there we're going to put nil because we don't want to hear it. That's right. Yeah, that's it. So just like it messed you up. The auto messed you up. So just type it right out. Just click out. Okay, that's it. Now try.
Isn't that code show we can delete? Dismiss variable in class.
There you go. Success.
So you gotta
Yeah.
So instead of just dismissing, you have to create a reference to the text from that. You have to in this method you have to create a new dog object.
So
And then you have to, just like in the code that I posted on Slack, you have to reference
and you don't want to
presenting view controller. And then call a method that accepts a dog, adds it to the list of dogs. Then modify the method that changes the cell, that changes
you already created
the label into that. So
yeah, I would just like make it nice and clean, just so you can
give it a brief one.
No, not the whole, yeah, not the whole. I would kind of break this.
Go ahead.
Not well. I started over.
Started over.
Yeah.
You got so far ahead.
It
You're
doesn't matter.
doing so well.
So
Where are we now?
when this starts,
Yes.
we will have to. I don't see this label that I just did.
Okay, start it. Let's see what happens.
So go back to master view controller. So and find lines 24, 25, and 26. There, right there. So comment those out. Because it's overriding
That I don't
with
remember.
code what you've done.
Yes.
We don't want that right now. We want to stick to what we know.
Now, it should be fine. Now,
Okay. It's not coming up. So you're running into the same problem that they were. So go into the main storyboard here. And this segue right here, click it and delete it. We're going to start, oh, no, say cancel. Cancel. For some reason it thinks you have that selected instead of that. I don't know why that is. So let's try this again. Okay. So you're going to click on that. So over here, you see this button that says add dogs? That guy. Right click on that guy. And then where it says touch up inside, drag it
okay, I'll do this.
there. What's happening? Let's try this again. Oh, it has to be action. I'm sorry. It has to be action.
Action.
Yeah. So then click modal.
But then,
Don't worry about it.
oh. So how is this different from what I did before?
I think it accidentally
It was
got the-
here too.
I know. Well, I think what accidentally happened, which we were not all aware of until a few minutes ago,
Alright.
that bar button item got the event instead of the button.
Oh.
And so the button is the one that's actually getting tapped. And this
Oh,
this object is more nested than what we wanted. So if you hit play on there, it should add dogs. There you go. Alright.
So far, so good.
So far, so good. So now we have to create a dismiss button.
Yep.
We'll then get rid of it or cancel it.
I think you should.
Oh, don't worry. I told you.
Where are you now?
There was going to be another. I was going to teach you best practices.
That's good. Okay.
I don't know. Okay, so just worry about the dog. The dog class.
Okay. So nice.
Okay, I think it was here, so then I sent the job, right?
They didn't crash. No, I think.
Or no, he
talking on this modal view controller.
But you got the code in there.
Yes, but there's something that's just not.
Okay. So this view controller, that was a class from the other app.
Yeah, but
So,
yeah,
so what class do you think we should actually be using?
master view controller.
Yep. Tap that in, see what happens. Good. You're missing a brace here at the end. Somehow the last one got terminated. That'll work. I think you want to put it in good place for legibility's sake. So that'll help a little bit. Great. So these two steps are obsolete, right? Because you don't have a text label in the other view, so it doesn't make sense to grab it and reference it.
So you need this.
You don't need those 2 lines at all. 2 lines of code. All comments you can delete, like it doesn't make sense. What we're trying to do is insert is up here. We want to create a dog, because you have the name now. So it makes sense right here to create the dog instance.
Okay.
And then this method in the other view controller, insert new object. Right now it just accepts this generic sender argument,
Yeah.
but we actually wanted to accept a dog,
Mm-hmm.
I think, from here. So you see how it works is you get an instance of the view controller. It has you need a method that accepts either a name of a dog or a dog, and then add it to the list of dogs that you're displaying.
But is that within the modal view controller? Because that's like where you would enter the field. But then once you enter it, would go back into the master view controller too.
That's right. So this is the point where you're actually going back. So you can decide you have 2 options. You know that somewhere you have to create a dog instance because that's what you're going to hold. But it doesn't really matter where you create it. You can create it here or you can create it there. I recommend that you create it here because you might want to add new fields. You might want to add its age, its gender, its breed, that kind of thing. So if you created the dog object here, you'd only have one piece of information to pass to the master view controller, which is the instance of the dog.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go for it. See how far you get. Okay.
I added in code and
Then it exploded.
yeah, I took it out. I don't know. That's
Okay. So what's the code?
but it
that you
did
did?
the dog.
Excellent. Okay.
And then
So instead of
I'll
here
show you
on
what
the
I
map,
added. Okay.
put the line, this line into the code? Did you put that in?
Yeah, that's what I'm like, I can't figure out this modal, there is a modal view.
Just think about the exact.
Like that's what I'm trying to figure out is the text view, is like how to
So,
like
first of
link
all,
that and
where are you
Is
going?
this gonna do this? No. Why not? What?
Well, what
Oh,
do you control? So the
So you,
this is not doing anything. That I don't get.
here it wasn't.
So I think that's
It wasn't.
that's actually storing it, right?
you need a specific, you need a control over your control.
Yeah, I added that.
So
I just
isn't
need
that
to
where?
decide that. Or I did. Sorry.
Okay, take a breath.
Yeah.
Okay.
I am
This is
conscious.
really, oh my gosh. So